We're joining us live on Radio Caley for the Vice President Education debate. That was a bit of Rudimental and Waiting All Night. Before that, it was Feel Love. So we are here. 5 of them have made it in. Sadly, one person couldn't come in this afternoon or this evening due to work problems. We found this out late, but their manifesto is up on Caledonian Student, as up all the manifestos in here. If you want to get involved in the chat, please go onto Twitter or Facebook and get involved that way. It is VPE debate is the hashtag. Or go into Facebook and message in. We are live on Radio Caley. We are coming through. I've got that confirmed, so we can start. So we're here with 5 of the candidates, and each of them have got 30 seconds to introduce themselves and talk about their campaign, about what they're campaigning for, and what they would do in their role. So where do we start? Anyone want to go first? Yeah? Do I go for it? Go for it.
Hi there, my name is Anne-Marie Doherty. I'm a 4th year honours student at GCU studying Information Systems Development. Why have I decided to stand? Because basically I believe in student engagement. I believe in a culture of engagement. I really want to get back to student as partners. There is an upsurge of consumerism that I'm starting to feel is coming through from the younger generation and some of the older generation, and I want to make a reverse of that. I believe in students and institutions working together. I believe that we have a lot to learn from each other, and it's like I really want to talk about flexible learning and teaching as well. When it's all said and done, the world has changed and the university needs to change with it. I really want to talk about it's like how we...
Perfect, that's been 30 seconds. Sorry, we are really tight on time. You will get your time to extend what you're trying to say later on, but we are really tight on time. There is only 2 hours. 2 hours might seem a lot, but it flies by in radio. Okay, next up, we're just going around in the circle. Perfect, go for it.
My name's Pauline Dolan. I'm here today as I felt that certain groups in the uni have been underrepresented, so I'm running this year to be the voice of those groups because I'm also passionate about education. In addition, I think I can add some variety to the Students' Association because I believe that variation is always a good thing. It ensures a continuous flow of ideas. I believe there's 2 things that your time in university should give you. It should give you a fantastic experience and set you up for a great future. And I hope to do that through Pauline's voice, which is vision, organisation, integrity, communication and execution. And you can see that in my manifesto.
Fantastic, 30 seconds on the dot.
Wow.
You've practiced that one, eh? Okay, next up, go round.
So hello, I'm John G and I'm on for VPE. I want to work on your employability. I want to make sure that everyone leaves here feeling like a boss, get the job you've studied so hard for. I want to make opportunities more available to more people. For far too long, people like parents have found barriers to them to international study, and I want to make learning more flexible. I've got too many friends who've been sick due to exam bunching.
Perfect. Awesome. Next up, Danielle.
Hello, my name's Danielle. I'm running for your Vice President of Education. The reason I'm standing is because I've loved my time here at university. I've done so much for the university. I was Women's Officer last year. I've been on a study experience to Canada. I've gone abroad to India to try and create links between universities. And through this, I've really started to understand just how important education is. I want to create better inclusion. I want to create student engagement. And I really want to make sure that enough can be done to make sure that all people can find paid internships and so forth.
Fantastic. Awesome. And last but not least.
Thanks very much for that. I'm Colin Hanson. I'm actually a fresher here at Glasgow Caley. The reason that I'm so old as a fresher is probably because of the majority of my experience. I was a student president for 2 years, working very closely with NUS. I was then given a job as the Learner Engagement Officer at North Glasgow College, and then worked as the Student Liaison Officer at Aberdeen College. And before the merger, that was actually the largest college in the country. It was 33,000 students that I used to deal with. During my time there, I was also a student team member with Education
I'm sure
Scotland.
you'll get to use that more as we go on throughout. The guys are brilliant at talking, all 5 of them, talking to them before we started. They are all really looking forward to this. And
can I just say, well done, it's actually making him stop. That never happens.
Yeah, well.
It's got to be fair for everyone.
It's going to be fair. It's going to be a fair debate. Everyone's going to get their opportunity. We have got different topics that the candidates were known the topics before they didn't get to know the questions. but the topics are quite brief. We're not here to catch anyone out. We're here to get your honest opinion on topics and make sure that these topics are well known for everyone else. So yeah, obviously everyone here is standing for Vice President of Education, and nobody would be here without one event happening rather recently, and that's with the departure of our current Vice President of Education, who is Neil Clark, who's in the studio with us. Do you want to say hi, Neil? Or are you okay?
Hi, Neil.
Neil says hi. So Neil's here. He will be giving some insight into any discussions going on if we require it. We're hopefully going to get joined later on as well by an NUS representative, but that has not been confirmed. So you've all gone into education, and you're all going into education in GCU. What do you think is the biggest issue within the learning for students in GCU, and how do you plan to address that? And we're going to go in opposite order to when we first went. So we're going to go from Colin round. So you all get 30 seconds to reply to that, then we'll have a couple of minutes of discussion surrounding that. And I realise you've just been given the question, so give you a wee... You alright to go?
I don't have them.
No, I've just said the question, is what I was saying.
Oh, sorry, I thought you
No,
had
no,
a
no.
list. Right, okay.
No. I'm on the only one on the list here. You okay? So it's the biggest problem within GCU for learning, and how you plan to address this at the moment.
Okay.
Alright, on you
Okay.
go.
So first of all, I believe that the biggest problem that we have is at GCU that we aren't as inclusive as we could be. It's very difficult to get students involved. Sometimes there's not enough transparency. When we do questionnaires and we do speak to students, absolutely we are out there and we are given the option, but it's the fact that some of them don't really take up that option, and the issue is that we have to really be out there more and trying to engage more with the students to get a better idea.
Fantastic. 30 seconds on the dot again, Colin. I'm giving you all till 31 because I realise it takes me a little bit to actually press the button. Or I press it just before, so you're all getting till 31. If any you see my phone and go, why are you getting an extra second? You're not really. Alright,
Yep.
Daniel?
Yeah. Okay, so I believe what Colin said, but I want to go a little bit more in detail. I think that one of the biggest problems is student and lecturers talking to each other, chatting, having a relationship. I think in order to have the best quality of education, you need to have a partnership with your lecturers, and it's only if you can really feel that you are close to your lecturers and that you can ask them anything that you can really start to have a fantastic education.
Fantastic. Awesome. John G?
Right, I think it is the whole issue around exams. Recently we've had exams pushed to after Christmas, which I know quite a lot of students have found a lot more difficult compared to previous years. Along with this kind of over-emphasis on exams, quite a lot of students I've met on the ground that I've spoken to have said they want a more emphasis on classroom-based learning due to the stress through exams.
Perfect. You right?
Yep,
Go for
Whilst
it.
I agree with all of the candidates, there's also the fact of integration. There was a report recently done, and in that most of the students felt that, well, a large majority of the students felt that they were missing out on connected experiences within the university. So I think it is all about integration, and it is all about getting out there, it is all about trying to engage them more, finding out what they actually want to do and how they want to engage. This can be done in a variety of ways, and I'm sure it's all been done before, but we have to keep at it, we have to keep pushing it, because there's lots of services and things that GCU offer that the students don't know about.
Perfect, thank you very much. And last but not least, Anne-Marie.
Although I'm going to repeat, yes, I do agree with what everyone's saying. I think one of the biggest things that we lose focus on is the students themselves being the experts in their own education. It's like I'm an information systems development. I don't know what it's like to be social sciences or what kind of learning or teaching that you need. So it's like, I mean, I think it's all about finding out the diversity of learning that's needed. And I think the only way to do that is to actually go out and talk to the students from different courses, different schools, and find out what it is they require.
Perfect. Anyone got any comments about anything else or anything? No? Any questions? No? Happy days. Awesome. There will be an opportunity at the end if you want to raise anything, or at the end of each question, then you can. But at the moment, fantastic. Next question. And if any of you have got any, while my monitor switches off, sorry for the little delay there. Any of you got any questions, feel free to message in on Facebook or on the Twitter hashtag. Sadly, we don't have a shout out box in working order today, but at the moment it's doing fantastically well. Or, you know, question to any of the Radio Caley ones as well. That's going to come out just as well. We will get your question out on air. Right, next one. Obviously, one of the candidates mentioned it in his last answer, but we're talking about the exam diet issue. And obviously, there have been many well-known issues surrounding the exam diets, with exams being questioned themselves. What's your opinion on the exams being moved to after Christmas? And if you don't agree with it, what do you plan to do, or how do you plan to go about that? We're going to start in the middle this time, because that's only fair, because we started recalling last time, started with Anne-Marie the first. So John, you're up first, and then we'll be going to the right.
Yeah, I think it's an absolutely disgrace that the uni ignored our referendum on issue. We made our point clear, and sadly management have just dinged us. So I really want to see if we can do something about this. It's a big fight, but if we're going to go for it, we're going to really have to shake the boat and possibly annoy management. I've got a bit of experience myself in grassroots campaigning. I've campaigned against college cuts, and we've done pretty well. So yeah, let's make our voice heard and put a bit of bite behind our back.
Fantastic. Danielle?
Okay, so obviously I think what needs to be done is more people really need to engage with the student association. Michael Stevenson, our now president, ran a fantastic campaign to try and stop the university from doing what they did, but unfortunately there wasn't enough people, I think, who came forward who supported it. So if we can get more support from the student association for these campaigns, then I think that there'll be more people to fight against the establishment, against the bigger people in the uni who have more power than we do.
Fantastic. Okay, so to your left again and my right again. Colin, on you go.
I think it's quite difficult for me to answer because I've not really been involved a lot in the exam process just yet. A lot of it's been coursework leading up to an exam. I do believe that the intensity of the exams can be quite harrowing, and especially when they have not listened to what the students have said. However, where do we go from here to have the voice heard, even though the voice was heard but nothing was done? It is a very difficult situation, and honestly speaking, all we can do is to continue on and try and push the situation.
Perfect. Thank you. While I remember, can you, Danielle, sit a bit closer to the mic?
Alright,
Just,
okay.
That's perfect. While I remember before I forget for the next time. Anne-Marie?
I think it's like when you do look at that, I mean, I think it varies for different students across different bodies. I have had some complaints about the idea that it seems to be more about exam bunching rather than it getting moved onto the following year. Although I agree, I think the fact that the voice was not heard, I think is something that I would actually have to look into. I don't have enough experience to say it's like where we could possibly take it further or look at different processes that could maybe be set up. So that would actually be one of the jobs that I would actually take on board once, if I did manage to become VP, is to look at how do we change it.
Fantastic. That was just over 30 seconds. Sorry, that was my fault, getting distracted by questions. But it was only a couple of seconds. You're okay. Next one, Pauline.
Sure, as far as I can see, there wasn't obviously enough time for the Students' Association to campaign against it, if that's the way that we wanted to go. There's mixed feelings, obviously, as Anne-Marie said, on both sides of the fence. From an educational point of view, obviously the academic staff wanted, because the students, basically, their grades were lower than they could be after the exam, which is fair enough. But if they moved that maybe 2 weeks and started our exam, started the term 2 weeks earlier, then that might take over that. On the other side of things, there are two different sets. There are people who are out on placement, trying to bunch, as Anne said, things together.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know.
Any responses? Any questions to each other? Yes, no.
I'd like to pose a question to
Yeah,
everyone.
go for it.
If we are doing the campaign, I know what you're saying in terms of not having enough time to campaign. So how do we do it more effectively for next time? And how do we get them to change their minds if we've already given them our opinion?
I mean, 2,000 out of 17,000 students voted against it. That's not a lot, really, to be fair. So where are the rest of the students and what is everybody else doing?
But I think that's part of the problem. It goes back to the whole ethos of student engagement. It's like, I agree, it's like I really do wish my strong push is definitely going to be trying to get more students involved. A lot of the time it's like, I mean, students do really have a voice, but I think it's like they struggle to get that voice put across, and I think it's our responsibility to try and capture that. So I think therein the kind of problem lies. Although I do think it's like we do have the powers to maybe set up like new processes. That's the whole point of what the Student Association is about. So it's like we can take it forward onto Senate. We can take. Do you know what I mean? There are places that we can go. We can like maybe talk to NUS and see if it's like. Do you know what I mean? There's somewhere we can go there. So there are avenues that are certainly worth exploring. That's what I think anyway.
John or Danielle?
I think also in terms of student engagement. Sorry, can you?
That's perfect.
We, when they decided that they wanted to change the exams till after the year, I mean, who were these people? Who are they? Students don't know who these people are, and I think we definitely have to get, the top players of our university and really merge them more together, because there's people all over the place. There's people out there who don't even know who our vice principal is. They don't know if it's a man or a woman, and that we're not living in the best education system when people don't even know who that is, and they're the main person who's representing you. So yeah.
John?
Yeah, if we're going to fight it, we're going to have to be loud. One of the things I really want to do is, when we done the petition last time, it was just on paper. So a big thing that's worked in previous campaigns is where it also means an email. So if the principal wakes up to maybe 2,000 emails from students, she'll get the message, then she'll read the newspaper and hopefully she'll see it on the front page, and hopefully she'll have a wee email from a few MSPs. So we'll make our voice heard and show them that this isn't someone who you can just push around.
Mm-hmm. Do you want a chance to answer your own question, since you posed it to other people?
Personally speaking, I mean, it goes back to the first point that I made to the first question. I believe that we do, as a student association, we do get out there, we do engage. I think it's one of our strengths. Problem is, how do we get people that aren't interested? Yeah. And that is one of the absolute utmost issues that we have as students. You're quite right, 2,000 students out of 17,500 students is a drop in the water. However, it's probably the only students that actually want to say something. There are a lot of students that come here that find their education okay and they adapt to it. But what we need to do now is be more, we need to be more transparent to see who isn't dealing with this and why are they doing it correctly. I mean, Neil, can I ask, obviously from your work from last year, is this something that you were going to carry on and work on for the next set?
For me, I think the key thing was to wait for progression and retention figures. So wait till after the exams were done, then examine, have been a higher number of students failing exams or having resets because they've been moved to January. I think there's been some really good points made. I think the Students' Association wasn't given enough time to campaign, and because of that affected the campaign that was ran in the petition. But 2,000 votes by this Student Association standards is really good for a single issue, and it was 92% of those people said they didn't want exams moved. The university completely disregarded that. So I think I take the point that I think they're spot on saying we do need to be engaging other students, but I think we need to look at the evidence. Now, decisions being made. The reason I didn't campaign on it the last year was that this decision was made and it was made perfectly clear it wasn't going to get reversed in a year. So I think it's got to be evidence-based moving forward.
Fantastic. Brilliant. That was Neil with a little help of my arm trying to hold up that mic stand. Fantastic. Next one we're going on to employability. This will be the last one before we take a wee break. As you can feel, it's already getting a wee bit hot in here, isn't it? So employability. The uni uses statistic, and this is something I've had a year of trying to fight and trying to talk about and trying to encourage within my own degree. The uni uses the statistic 96.2% as an employment figure for GCU students. Obviously this has been found all on gcu.ac.uk. Do you feel this is accurate? And what would you feel offers better representation if you don't feel that's accurate? If you feel it's accurate, you can say why it's accurate. If you don't feel, what would offer best? We're going to go right back to the start. So, Amory?
The perfectly frank answer is no, it's not accurate. I mean, it's accurate if you look at it in the sense of, yes, they have employment, but it doesn't actually necessitate what type of employment that is, so it may not be necessarily tied in with what they've actually studied for the last maybe 3 or 4 years. I do think there is I think that's misleading, and it's like I do think it's like the university should not be using those figures in that way. I think it's like the way they should actually be tying it up to what degrees or what education it's like the students have actually went through, and that should be the figures they actually publish. So I think it's like to lead students on in this way and to sort of like to make it, it's almost like covering it up, and I actually don't agree with that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I
Pauline?
would agree. It's a marketing tool, really, to be fair. So there's no context on what kind of employment people have. They've got employment, yes, in this day and age it's a really good thing, but at the same time, then how they would take that forward, where they're going to go with that. So it has to be relevant to whatever they're studying for them to go any further in their career.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but a 0 hour contract and minimum wage at Waterstones ain't a graduate job. I think they should go back to where it's either a job in your professional field or a managerial role. I think that's quite accurate, and that's looking at the stats myself. They still do quite well, they can still brag about that. They're just maybe not quite as good as other unis, but hey, like, nah, it's not good, man. It's not good.
Danielle?
Yeah, I suppose it's very broad. There's a lot going on just now with people getting out of university, and then going into McDonald's. I see it all the time. I think that the university has to do more to try and maybe help people with internships, graduate schemes. There is a lot out there, but the university has to help people. You can't just go out there and find a job straight away, and it should be the university that really helps us to find employment.
Cool. Colin?
Yeah, I'm going to just into like what Andrew was saying. Absolutely, it is a correct figure. 96% of students are either going on further education from here, or they are in education. Or they're in full-time employment. No, they're not in careers. It's not a figure we should be using. Absolutely not. The amount of students that actually continue on their part-time jobs that they needed to survive through university, that they stay on in that position even though they've got a degree, is phenomenal. I don't absolutely know the right numbers. There's also, if you have looked back a few years ago, a campaign from government themselves, those who can teach, people that join that course to get into it.
Us. That's us. Sorry.
It's okay.
And do you want to ask anybody any questions about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it is so much a question, but it's like I just want to kind of throw it out there. I think one of the biggest problems we have, and this is maybe going to sound a little contentious, is the whole point of like student engagement with the employability. I mean, I do think that the university do try, to a certain extent. It's like, I mean, I know it's like I was offered a lot of employability units and lectures to go to. I know a lot of the students didn't take it up themselves. But I do think it's like we could maybe look at looking and embedding employability maybe in first and second year. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you actually have units where it's embedded within, so it's kind of compulsory for students to go to. I think to a certain extent, it's like by the time I got to maybe third or fourth year, I did not realise the importance of them progressing into employment. And it's like I don't think I really took it seriously enough. And I think it's like if we try and promote that message to students more, whether it's from us, the Student Association, or working together with the university, but I do think it's something that we do need to talk about.
Any responses to that?
Yeah, I think you're completely right, and especially, there's services out there like the Learning Development Centre that can really help students in taking that first step forward to, looking out there. Because the thing is, when you're at university, especially for undergraduates, I think, who haven't had a job before, you don't know where to start. Like, obviously I'm 21 now, but I think you really do have to start looking when you're in like first or second year, as you said, and it can be so difficult for people to actually take that first step to find. So I think if we really do, I think you mentioned this early on, enhance what we have and let students see what we have and make more use of it, then that will definitely help.
That should be part of, obviously, the Vice President of Education's role. That's what you should be doing. That should be getting out there and making sure that all of the students know everything that is going on in the university, and all of the opportunities, and just enhancing it.
Yeah, definitely. Like on my manifesto, you'll see like I'm employee mad in a good way. A big issue I've had is the career service. It's just moved down to the Salter Centre. These guys and girls are amazing, but the problem previously was actually finding them, and that's a big issue. We really make sure. Sadly, career sending an email ain't going to get people engaged. You have to get out there and speak to them, especially when it's hard out there. It's a big mean world, and graduate employers are looking for you to have experience and for you to be able to articulate them.
There's two big things that I think that we need to look at. I mean, first of all, economically, there aren't careers out there at the moment. So, I mean, it's all great that we'll do this and But if we can't actually if there's no jobs, then we can't work further on employability. I also want to make a point in terms of, I honestly believe that sometimes the student association from all over the country is actually a victim of its own success from about 3 or 4 years ago. I remember campaigns when we were always talking about widening access, opening up education to everybody. We now see more students throughout Scotland that have ever been in higher education. We have courses along the swap with Southwest Access programs. We are bringing in more mature students from all walks of life, and we are giving them that helping hand. But at the same time, we're not creating the jobs to back up what the government are doing to get people into education. And I would absolutely love if everybody, I'm here to get a degree and go on to teach, hopefully. But the unfortunate problem with that is there might not be any teaching jobs in Scotland. And people might have to go further afield to get a career. In terms of the employability figures that we see, I don't understand. I don't know if, see when it says graduate, do they mean graduate with a degree or do they with a BA honours? Because a lot of the figures there, if you're going for a degree, great, you've got your degree, but you're coming back next year for the honours. So how many? Yeah. What figure is that?
The figures that are published, that's for last year. It was 96.2% of graduates in employment 6 months after graduation. The new figures are out. I don't know if they've been released yet for GCU, but you're absolutely right, because they do publish figures on graduate entry jobs, which are professional or managerial, if you want to call them that. But the university don't shout about that because they're a lot lower because of the jobs market. So yeah, I think it should be degree specific. That should be the stats that are publishing, but they don't. So they shout about it as general one, which could be, as you say, continuing on your part-time job or getting a job that's got nothing to do with a degree, and it is 0 hours contract minimum wage, which helps no one to get a degree. While you're talking about employability as well, if you want to enhance that, student leaders program and student associations are a brilliant way to add to your CV.
And as Colin is wiping the sweat off his forehead, we are going to be taking a break, but I think we're all feeling the heat. Enjoy a couple of songs that are coming up on Radio Caley. Stay tuned. If you want to send us any questions, please do so, and we will see you shortly. A couple of summer beats there from the Summer Beats album. We'll let it finish. This is what it feels like, and it feels very hot in here. But that wee break was nice, wasn't
it?
Yeah. Not nice when your campaign manager's out there getting tucked into a £1/4 of cheese. Thanks, Kev.
So yeah, we're heading back into questions. We've got another few more. I think we'll do 3 or so more, and then have another break, 3 or 4 more. One question has just been sent in, and I have to read this out now. And it's saying, what is your view on our current president's sandals, and what do you plan to do about it? That was Jack Johnson, obviously emailing in or messaging in on the Twitter, using the Twitter hashtag, using that. There is a couple of other questions there. We will get to them towards the end of the show, I suppose.
I feel that Michael Stevenson's sandals is a top priority on everyone's campaign list, the to-do list. It's ban them.
Forget about employment strategy or anything to do with engagement or that.
Instead to be running around the campus, that's what you need.
Right, let's get back to serious stuff and talking about Vice President Education, which you're all standing for and all so passionate about. We've just done employability. We covered employability, exam, diet and education if you missed the earlier section of the show. Next areas we're going on to representation, media, social media more precisely, Senate, and then there'll be a question from Neil, a secret question from Neil. Dun, dun, dun. And he's been thinking all day for this one, so yeah, all day about an hour ago. But yeah, let's get started. Representation. Obviously we've got many different liberation groups in the university. We've got many different groups on campus, many different groups throughout NUS and all that sort of stuff. How would you ensure that all these groups are fairly represented in what is being described as an all-white male elected what are they called? Executive. Thanks, Neil. Word completely lost. So that was, how would you ensure that all liberation groups are equally represented within what is at the moment an all-white male executive? We were last at Amity, and as the thing goes round, we will start with Colin again.
So, could you just read the question one more time? Sorry, Fraser.
How would you make sure that all liberation groups are equally represented within GCU, basically?
Okay, and is this leading back to the fact that there's 4?
Yeah, it can do.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's what's been said from other people from out with and towards, or different students or whatever.
Well, all liberation groups in themselves are quite self-sufficient and run themselves. Even in terms of the exec, it's not like only men ran. There were some really good campaigns, but the students spoke and they were the best candidates at the time. And I still believe that the best candidates won. In terms of liberation groups, because they are self-sufficient, it's just all about giving them every option and learning more about the actual group and giving them the best choices that they can readily use.
Fantastic. Smack bang on 30. What way did we go last time? Danielle, you were next last time, so we'll go with you again. So Danielle?
I kind of feel like that's 2 questions. I think you answered it in 2 questions. So the first one, obviously, so it's an all-male, what was the word again, Neil?
Exactly.
There you go. Executive. So I think, obviously, there's many reasons for that, but one thing that I've discussed is it's because men and women have different ways of going around elections, and that needs to be conquered. And the other one is liberation groups need to work more together. They're quite isolated, LGBT, women's. We need to come together more and have more funding.
Perfect. John?
Yeah, John G. I've got a few ideas myself to champion liberation. So one of the things we could do is what we used to have in the past is the exec was more than just the 4 SABs, so maybe we could put all the liberation officers onto the exec. They'll have a bigger say that way. We can start turning down some of the barriers to the elections, such as need a bit of money up front, so if we just give candidates materials, it could help more people to run. And the other thing we could do is put in a bit more effort to the liberation campaigns, so maybe sticking a bit more support, a bit more money, so they're actually getting out there and getting what they want done.
Perfect.
Well, that was one of my bugbears from last year, and it was all exec, which is why I'm running this year. Basically, I can represent quite a few of them. Not all of them, in terms of the liberation. Obviously, we have to make them feel more comfortable. Students' Association have to make them feel more comfortable. We have to get out there and integrate them more and bring them in and just integrate with them as well. Go to whatever they're doing, we have to be out there too.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think the biggest problem though is it's about teaching them to empower themselves. I think a lot of the time it's like they're not aware of the different methods that they can use and how they can actually, do you know what I mean, integrate with us. I do think we do have to do a bit of searching out to them, but I think it's a halfway thing. I think if you give them the proper tools and sort of allow them to empower themselves, that would go a long, long way.
Perfect. Any further comments?
Can I just ask
Go for it.
Danielle a question?
Yeah.
What do you mean men and women go about things differently? There's rules and guidelines.
Oh, we start.
No, I know. No, I just mean like I was women's officer obviously last year, so I'm quite interested in women and men's, different ways. And I was watching a documentary, I think it was BBC One somewhere, and it was talking about how men and women have different ways of doing things. Men are more, they enjoy competition and contests. So do women, but in many ways they like going about it in different ways. Not enough women did get involved with the election. Probably agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't think enough women did at all, and I think that's one of the reasons why no women got it.
Yeah. Can I
Go for it.
I think I've seen over the last few years is quite a lot of women are running for VP Wellbeing. Like
That's
we've
right,
got
yeah.
really good women
Uh-huh.
candidates, but they always almost migrate to this one position. Maybe we need to start looking at like how can we encourage them to start running for more positions than just that, because they've got so much more to offer, and it's getting on the ballot.
I don't think there's ever been, I don't know if this is right, Neil, but I don't think there's ever been a female student president.
Carla Fife was student president
Yes.
before Matt Lamb.
Or
The last 5 years it's been almost a 50-50 split, but if you go back 10 years the stats are a lot more skewed towards men being president.
Right, okay.
I think that's all back to sort of like, if you sort of look at society in general, this is where you're sort of getting this sort of kind of stereotype, which is an issue and something that we do need to look at, but I think we could tackle it. I think it's all about giving, these kind of groups, it's like the confidence to come forward and to stand up for what they believe in and to feel it's like they have their place and they can take their place there. At the moment, I'm not so sure that actually exists. I think it's like a lot of people think about it, but but don't actually have the confidence, you know what I mean, or the tools, or the support even to think about standing up. So I think that's something we sort of need to look at.
I went to the NUS Women's Conference, which was not that long ago, and obviously everybody women, so that was kind of an eye-opener. But they had the confidence as a group, you know, they had the confidence as a group. So it is about more encouragement, it is about being out there. There's not enough leadership for women out there in the first place, you know, so given the fact that we have to get out and, you know, encourage these people. I've spent the last couple of years with some of the students that are going to be integrating from college, you know, and I've tried to do that with them, you know, trying to encourage them that you have to stand up for yourself, you have to stand out, you have to go forward, because otherwise nobody else is going to come behind you and pat your bum, you know.
Last mention on this, Neil?
Yeah, just a couple of points I want to make. In terms of the campaigns that were ran in March, the most recent elections, there were a number of women candidates. It was a really diverse range of candidates we had. That wasn't reflected in the successful candidates, if you will. I think one of the points is made, there were elements of the campaigns that were ran that were quite confrontational, that might have put some women in particular off. Just back to Danielle's point about the different types of campaigns. One of the interesting stats was when you break down the demographics of the people who voted, it was almost exactly matching the uni stats, which is 60% women to 40% men. So I think that's something that has to be investigated more. In terms of fair representation, it's been on the agenda in the Students' Association for a while. We took part in the NUS Diversifying the Movement project. As a result of that, that work, and to continue that work, we've got an internship position that's advertised just now on the website, which is open until Friday, and it's going to focus solely on investigating barriers to women's participation in the Students' Association and university. So I think the work that will come out of that, the findings, will be great for future elections and for putting, you know, different processes into place to encourage more women in particular to run. I think the idea for some of the liberation groups to sit on executive committee meetings, I think that's a great idea. You know, they're every fortnight, so I don't know if it would be logistical in terms of people missing classes, but I think maybe even to have an open invite to the different groups to come in would certainly open up the exec to a wider range of ideas as well.
Fantastic, awesome. The next question is talking about the Student Association media. Namely, we can be pretty proud in the fact that I think this is the first time it's ever been said live on air. Radio Caley are now officially the third best student media in the UK. That was a proud moment down in Bolton last week for myself, and another member of Radio Caley went down to get told that. So obviously, us as the third best student media in the UK, we can do miraculous works. But how would you engage with student media, and how would you use it, use student media to really be accountable or to get engaging with students? For example, shows on Radio Caley or a column in the edit. Just examples. I don't know if you want to expand on that or what you want to say. The last time we started at column, so we're back in the middle with John.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm really looking forward to is Radio Caley is actually going to start recording the student voice meetings. I think that's going to be a really good way to get people to engage who can't physically be there or just want to hear what we actually said. I think that's going to be really, really good. I like the idea of doing a column in the edit or on the radio show. I'm totally up for come down, have a chat, tell you what I promised my manifesto and what I've actually done so far, so you can hold me to account on what I've did.
Perfect. Danielle, we're going my right again.
Okay. So I've been involved in Radio Caley since second year, and one of the great things about it is you can talk about anything and you can use it as an education platform. So I'd really like to see more people coming forward to use it as an education platform to really engage with students. Me, myself, I would do it. And I would also like to see more sabbatical officers coming down and perhaps having a show themselves for half an hour, really talking about what they've done to try and engage more students.
Cool. Mr. Hanson?
I have to agree with what Daniel just said in terms of how well we get together. I don't agree with that Radio Caley's been used effectively enough when it has come to elections. I think this is the first time anything like this has happened, and it's great to see that we're going forward as a social media for the students. In again, I would probably like to see more transparency in terms of what John was saying, having the meetings broadcast and even being available so people can actually, because black and white can be very straight to the point. There's no tone, you can't pick it up, so it's all about engaging that.
Thank you. Anne-Marie?
I think I would just like to sort of expand on that a little bit. I do agree with what every candidate's been saying up to now. I think it's like the use of media can be a very powerful thing. I do think it's like, black and white, but I think it's like you also have to make sure it's like you respond to the diversity. So it's like, I think like media can only be used as one aspect of it. However, I do think it's a fantastic idea that it's like, you know what I mean, that the exec come down and sort of like have an informal chat and just talk about like what they've done, do you know what I mean, what meetings they've been to, people they've spoke to. I do think it'd be a good idea for us to actually have some.
Social media was part of my course of last year, so there's a variety of social media you can use, but you have to find out what the students are using and utilise that. Basically get your voice through that, get what you would want to say or what you want to do through that too. Radio Caley's great, but it's not blasted everywhere on the campus. There's not enough facilities for Radio Caley to be in. So in terms of, you go to the canteen, Radio Caley isn't in the canteen. Maybe it should be in the canteen. Maybe it should actually be put in to where the staff sit as well, so that they can actually find out what we actually think, you know, without having to be mind readers.
Perfect. Any further comments, developments?
Being a multimedia journalism student, having Radio Caley, having the edit is a fantastic employment tool because it gives people something to put on their CV, and I think that we really need to use that because there's so many things we can do with our media in order to push students into employment.
Yeah, in terms of Radio Caley student media and the universities, last year I think we can all agree wasn't ran well. I feel that we've got the right people in place this year. I mean, there was a few people who didn't even know the passwords for the Twitter, so I'm so glad that Radio Caley's in the right hands now and we can really go further forward with it.
Sorry, I'm looking at Mark's station manager sitting in the green room, and his smirk as you were saying that was unbelievable. It was actually, no, that's picture perfect.
Enough of the internal politics.
Yeah. Moving on. All done?
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, unless you want to plug that you were in Bolt a few more times.
No, we won an award last week just for that. The Senate, obviously fantastic in the university. Do you feel that members of the Student Association, do you feel it should have more members on the Senate? And how much of an influence do you think they can have on the Senate? I think Neil can give a bit of background to what's already been achieved. If that would be fantastic, actually. I don't know. That would be great.
Yep.
And then we can develop that.
Yep, University Senate is the highest academic committee of the university. It's where all the major decisions are made or approved, is probably a more accurate word. In the last academic year, we put a lot of work in, so we must have doubled the number of student reps on Senate. So as it stands, going into the next academic year, student president has a seat at the table. There's an undergrad place which is elected through student voice, and we also have places for international and postgraduate students. So we've got 4 students on University Senate. That's about average for the sector. It's about 10% across Scotland, averages out, so we are where a kind of minimum standard where we should be.
Okay. Any comments or?
That might be the minimum standard, but there should be backup. There should be backup for that as well. You know, for people who maybe can't make it, so there has to be some kind of representation all the time, every single meeting there is, and no apologies, so that somebody can feed back to the Students Association, somebody can feed back to the students themselves and the student reps.
I think that's a fair enough point actually. Do I think it's like we could actually even have more on Student Senate? Yes, I think we could never have enough. I think it's very difficult to try and represent everyone within the university, but I do believe it's like we do have to try. And it's like I think it's like we have to fight and get even other groups or other members of the university onto it. Then that's a fight I would definitely be worth. Do you know what I mean? I think it's worth fighting for.
John?
Yeah, I've got a few things to say about this. I think one of the things we can look at is how we use it. So I spoke to Carla, who's the president of the time of the Caley Christmas protests. One of the things we could really do is actually force a debate at Senate and force a vote, so we can actually get our issues out there and also work in partnership with the unions. So we can actually start seeing is who out there in the uni is there supporting us on the issues, and how can we support them?
Danielle?
I mean, I think one of the main things about the Senate is I don't think it's something that a lot of students know about. I don't think I really knew about it until second year. And I think we really have to push it, because yes, it is a very important thing, and if it's our one way of getting to the top of our university and putting our points forward to the executive, then for goodness sake, push it. Get more people knowing about it and get more people involved in the Senate.
Colin?
In terms of Senate, who decides what are the important decisions? Was the exam diet brought up at Senate? So yeah. In terms of Senate, is the students on there just a box ticking exercise, or we've got X amount of students, but we've listened to what they've said and we still don't think that there's any weight to it? How do we go further forward in Senate?
Well, it's a very good question. In the last year, then, so myself and previous student president put a paper proposing the doubled amount of student reps. That was passed. In terms of the exam diet getting moved, I was at the meeting as an observer. So the previous student president, which was Carla, and previous vice president of education, presented a paper outlining the results of the referendum, and it was essentially, yeah, we appreciate it was 92% of students didn't agree with exams getting moved, but with all due respect, 15 or 16,000 students didn't vote. What's the point? And it moved on. So I think the important thing to remember about Senate is it's not the only tool you can use to lobby university. There's a lot of lobbying that goes on before the meetings. There's a whole structure of meetings before that as well, where there is student representation on it. So there's plenty of opportunities to lobby and get involved and then put ideas forward and see them through to Senate and get them approved. But it is a challenge.
In terms of Senate, is it true that there's only ever been one paper put forward by a student?
I would need to check that. Well, in the last year there was one put forward for increasing the number of reps. The year before that there was...
But was that by student representation or by an actual student?
It was a student elected to sit on Senate and the student president who automatically gets the seat. So there's three. At that time there was one elected place for student president, so that was to represent students, yeah.
Could I just bring up another point, if you don't mind? It's like one of the things that's like that I've always thought about is like I agree about getting students more involved on. You ask them about do you know the students are represented at every level? Yes, but if you dig deeper than that, they don't really know, do you know what I mean, much about it. The other problem you've also got is the language that's used. It's like a lot of the time it's like when you look at sort of like minutes and stuff that's taken from all these exec meetings and boards and school boards, yeah, they're up there for students to look at, but they're not really, do you know what I mean, like geared towards students understanding them properly, and it's like I think that's something else that we really need to look at. I think if you're a student and it's like you decide I'm going to take an interest, it's like you're very quickly put off by the way that it's put across to you, because it's like, I mean, it can be really quite kind of lawyer speak, it can be quite complicated.
Absolutely. I remember one of my first board of managers meeting as a SAB at Canal College. I had to read probably about 400-page documents before I could even understand what was actually going to be discussed at the meeting that day.
Exactly. So I mean, how do we expect?
And it's so wordy, it's so intensive, and it is trying to break it down. Yeah. In terms, going back to what I believe in transparency, it is about either getting jargon busters or just trying to simplify the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's where you have to work with the student reps though, so that people in the Students' Association who do understand it, or other people do understand it, can feed back to them, and then they feed back to their own students in a language that's appropriate.
Okay, John?
I've been a school officer this year, and see even if they just put like a key at the start of like every report they do, honestly it takes it from a different language to actually English for once.
Mm-hmm. But then there you look at, it's like then you're leading into another problem. It's like, I mean, you've got like class reps, okay, and it's like I think they do a fantastic job, but it's like there's only so far we're allowed to take it, and there's only so much that a rep or a school officer for that matter can do on top of their studying, their working. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And it's like they're also trying to deal with and understand all these different issues. It's a lot. Mm-hmm. It's a lot for them to take on board, and
absolutely.
It's like, I think in order to try and,
one at a time.
Do you know what I mean? In order to try and sort of, you have to look at how he can actually make that more effective. I think that's a really
Danielle had asked me to.
Did I?
Yeah, you put your hand up.
No, I think this is where I would like to involve more students, and I think this is where you can ask them, what's the format that you would like to see it take, and I think you could probably be quite creative with it, because obviously all of the meetings go up online, so I'm starting to think, what kind of things could you use to engage with the students?
Yeah, you probably use a blog to their language or what have you.
But are the meetings also translated into different languages? I mean, we've got a multitude of different nationalities here. Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of, but that'd be an issue to take up at the university.
That's an issue to take up.
Just if I can go back to Anne-Marie's point, I think it's a really good point about getting the message back out to students. I know Anne-Marie's been a school officer as well as other folk in the room, but that is the job of student reps. If the student reps are doing their job properly, then the school officers go to school boards, the class reps go to student staff meetings and programme boards. Part of that is, before they're going to the meeting, they're getting information and issues from students. After the meeting, that should be getting fed back. So there are mechanisms in place to do that. How effective they are really varies across the university, and it's something that a lot of work's been put into, and I think a lot of work's still got to put into to make it more effective.
Okay, perfect. That was a good discussion in the Senate. Next question, and it's the last question before the break. Another break, because it's getting hot in here again, I can see it. But there will be another break. Next question is Neil's own question. So, Neil, would you like to take the mic and go for it?
Right, this question is about the biggest issue for the year ahead. So I'm going to give you my take on what the biggest issues are for the upcoming academic year, and I'm really just interested in your thoughts on how you'd approach them. So it's not really a specific issue. There's a few things coming up basically in the next academic year. One of them is ELIR, or Enhancement-Led Institutional Review. So to translate that, basically the Quality Assurance Agency come in, and it's basically like a big audit of the university and everything that they're doing to enhance the learning experience of students at the uni. So it happens every 5 years. They're coming in to make sure the university is actively trying to improve the learning experience. So there's loads of work getting put into it just now and all the preparations. A key part of that is there's a kind of team come in to do the review, and they want to meet with students. And related to that, everyone in here I'm sure is aware of the Heart of Campus development. So the university is spending about £30 million redeveloping the campus. The construction work is pretty much started, all the preparatory work's done, but a lot of work done over the summer. But again, the students are going to be affected by disruption. So for both the ELIR and Heart of Campus, how do you make sure students are engaged in the process, and how do you make sure the university treats students as partners and getting the message out and working with them?
Perfect. So for this one, because it's quite a long question, people are going to have a minute to answer, and then we'll have some discussion afterwards. We will go like how we've been doing before, so Colin's first, work our way around. So that's the question there from Neil. Colin, you right?
Yeah, okay. So Leah, yeah, sorry. Well, yeah, it's not a time at the university where we need to be pulling things apart, but it's really working on the things that we do well. I don't want to be one of these people that are just down on the things that we're not doing, but I'd really like to promote the things that we do well. In terms of Aliyah works very closely with Sparks and the stuff that they've done with learner engagement. I was actually part of the team that wrote the book, the Sleek stuff that Sparks actually uses for the learner engagement stuff, and I was actually working for HMIE and Education Scotland at the time when they were bringing all the stuff together. So in terms of Aliyah, and if you're looking for someone with experience, I genuinely wrote the book about this. What we need to go out there, and we need to be, it's all back to engagement. It's feeding back healthy information, but at the same time we don't want to be glossing over the cracks. We need to be getting everybody involved.
Perfect.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Have further discussion afterwards.
Yeah.
That's a great start. Amory?
As far as the Leo's concerned, never before have we now got an opportunity where we put things forward and come up with some ideas. It's like I'm actually involved with one of the panels for next year at Napier University, so it's like I've actually been going through that process. ELIR allows us the opportunity to put forward ideas that they can then present to the QAAA as good practice, and that's what it's all about. It's about finding out about good practice, as you said, what works. But it's like we can actually sort of take that further, and it's like we've now, and whoever becomes, like, I mean, an elected officer, it's like now's your chance for you to put those ideas forward and see if you can have them implemented by the university. That's the way I feel about it, and I think it's a great opportunity. The other thing is to make sure that students are actually actively involved in it. A lot of the time it's like you'll find it's like the academics can tend to take over. So I really think we need to find out whether the students, where's their input towards the early year, it's like where are they actually having their chance to have that input.
Fantastic.
Oh, the campus.
It's alright. It's alright. Pauline?
Well, again, it's engagement, isn't it? I've worked over the last couple of years with a lot of the Connects people, from the people coming from college and things like that, so they will have a good view of the university now because they have been integrated. We didn't do that before, so that's one of the things, is actually to focus on the people who are now coming in, who've had the experience of being out there to the other universities and have chosen us. In terms of Heart of the Campus, it's to ensure that the students are still part of the Campus. So in terms of focus groups, forums, podcasts, anything we're able to engage with, so that we can actually focus, as Colin said, on the good points.
Yeah, on Aaliyah's, I think this is a chance where the student association can be big and bold. This is a one big chance to shape for the next 5 years. And that's where we should really need to get out there on the ground and find out what students want at an awesome university to be. Like, there's no ridiculous idea out there. We can go for it. On the issue of heart of campus, with building construction, it's going to be an issue that both of us are going to like, but as long as we're actually articulating what students are saying on the ground and make sure the management listen, then it should be as minimal issue hassle as we can.
Perfect. Danielle?
So a layer for quality enhancement, then it's fantastic for both students and for lecturers. If it's going to give lecturers the ability to improve on how they are teaching and how they are engaging with the students, and that's fantastic. For students, yes, we need to find a way for them to get involved. There is obviously the Students' Action Group for Engagement, which I suppose is a way for them to involve, and I think that we should try and create an environment where all of these groups can come together and work. Heart of Campus, I don't think that enough has been done to engage students. I was Women's Officer last year, and I spoke to the Officer for Disability, and she was saying that not enough has been done to work with disabled people because the ramps are far too high for them. So obviously, we need a more inclusive Heart of Campus.
Perfect. Any comments, questions, responses?
No, I think that's a really good point. I really don't feel there was enough students being spoke to about the Heart of the Campus. I think it's like they've got a kind of idea of what's happening, but I don't really think it's like they've been given a lot of direction. I think that's going to be the most important thing, to make sure it's like, how do we get the word out there quickly? I mean, this is going to be the thing, because things are going to change maybe on a daily basis, considering what's going to be happening. So I think we need to look at ways of, do you know what I mean, so it's like we can actually inform students like right away of particular issues that may be happening at that particular instance. So
especially for students who are going to feel it more, such as people with disabilities, how are they going to get into classes, all that sort of stuff.
Everyone happy? We can be even happier now because we're going to go for another break. It's boiling in here. Give us a wee minute on Radio Caley. There's going to be some more songs getting played, and we'll see you in a bit. We've got 2 more questions which were set before, and then we're on to the Twitter questions. And there's a few people commented on Twitter. The hashtag is actually doing quite well. So thank you everybody for getting involved. Colin's having a wee nosy, but yeah, happy. Cool. Yeah. So we were hoping to be joined. We were hoping to be joined by Robert Foster, who is the head of education for NUS, his full-time officer, alongside Gordon Maloney. However, it's not seeming like he can make it in, but we'll still ask the NUS question. So obviously, part of the uni, we're working with NUS. So how would you work with NUS to ensure that all campaigns are ran correctly and that you can increase the knowledge of NUS throughout the campus? So how would you increase the reputation of NUS, and how would you work with NUS to run campaigns smoothly, correctly, efficiently, all these different ways? Okay. Okay, that makes sense to everybody? Happy with that? We're going back to the circle, which is John, you're first, and it's my right, so Danielle, you'll be second. So yeah, you'll still have a minute for this. Sadly, my phone's just died. Is your phone still working, Neil? and Neil will time it on his phone. On you go.
Yeah, so one of the things I really want to do with the NUS campaigns is actually bring them onto campus. Most of the students don't even know what NUS is, so they're quite irrelevant. So I want to make them relevant, bring their campaigns on campus and show that actually NUS can make a big difference to them. So that's going to be my big focus on NUS.
Okay.
Okay.
Happy? Daniel?
So last year as Women's Officer I ran a domestic violence campaign on campus, and I had the help of NUS, and one of the things I really want to bring to Caley is the resources that NUS has, and really make the most of them for all liberation groups and also societies, because you know, when you start up a society, whatever, you don't always have everything that you need, and I think we really need to allow all societies to have a much closer link with NUS, because I don't think a lot of people know exactly what NUS can do for them. I've forgotten the other half of the question. I think there was more than one bit, wasn't there?
It was about how would you work with NUS and how would you run campaigns smoothly with
How
them?
would you run a campaign smoothly? So I would just make sure that you promote them as much as you can, use social media, maybe have someone who's more in charge of them here as well, so that there can be a proper link between the NUS and Caley.
Sure. As you can hear the timer.
Yes.
Is that your alarm for you? Perfect. Colin?
NUS. I have worked with NUS on and off for around 7 years now. They are, for me, one of the best organisations that students have to draw information from. However, that's exactly what I want to do. I am a fan of NUS, absolutely, but I don't want to get completely intensive using NUS. I want our students to absolutely use the resources, use the support that they provide. But if it's our fight, then it's our fight, and we have to be the ones. We have to be the architects of our own future. We really need to be using the likes of NUS, and NUS will always come along, apart from tonight, and support students. They always asking to come to freshers. They're always asking to come on when they have a national campaign. Absolutely. We need to fully support them, because I know that they'll support us, but not to the detriment of our student association losing our voice.
Awesome. Neil's pretty proud of himself, stopping the clock exactly on a minute. Okay, Amory?
To tell you the absolute truth, it's like I would actually have to agree with Colin on this matter. It's like I think that it's all about the NUS empowering us. It's like I think it's like they should be giving us the tools to see how we can actually move forward. I think it's all about dialogue, yes. It's like, I mean, have the conversations, by all means talk to them. I would stop short of them actually coming onto campus and actually having like on board here. I think it's all about the student association being self-governing and being autonomous. So as much as it's like, again, I do think they have an important part to play, I think it is about them empowering us.
Awesome. And Pauline?
Whilst I kind of agree with that, I still think that the NUS are a really, really good resource, and I think it's about seeking out the people who matter and seeking out the people who will help, no matter whether it's off campus or on campus, because they are a really good resource to use. Going to the NUS conference, I have to admit that was my first one, obviously, for this year, so this is going to be a new adventure for me. But at the end of the day, you know, partnerships work all over, so why shouldn't NUS partnership work for us?
Awesome. Any further mention, talk, chat?
NUS have got volunteer positions up just now as well, so it's about, obviously, as well as saying to the students, how would you like to volunteer? How would you like to go out and do something, and then bring that back to us, you know?
It's all about signposting, and at the end of the day, yes, we want to be a very supportive student association, but for me, it's not about hand-holding for everyone. If a student can go and find their own information, then great, and NUS allows that, because they do have very good candidates in place, but they also, I feel that over the years, the job remits that and the job descriptions that NUS officers have, they really know their stuff, and it's always good, because, like you said, they will be able to put you in touch with the right people at the right time. So yeah.
Neil, do you want to mention something on this? You okay?
Yeah, just in terms of NUS, the NUS Scotland represents about 500,000 students in Scotland. NUS UK is about 7 million students, so it's a huge collective voice to represent students. They're a brilliant organisation to get students' views across at a national level, but also to come in and help out in campuses. So they have like regional campaigns or community organisers, so they'll come in and run through how to run a campaign with students and kind of support us to do that, to support our students as well. So there's plenty of ways to get involved. The likes coming up, there's a big demonstration in London in November. It's not organised by NUS, but NUS will be supporting and encouraging student unions and associations in Scotland to get involved as well. So yeah, and I've got a vested interest because I sit in the executive committee at NUS in Scotland, so yeah, NUS are brilliant.
And
Oh,
NUS
no,
are
don't
great.
get me wrong. No, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I do think they definitely have their part to play. There's no getting around it. And I do think it's like, I sort of understand what you're saying about a partnership, but it's like, I think that's all about an exchange of dialogue, do you know what I mean? And about finding out, it's like who can I go and speak to? It is about getting it out there to the students, I agree there. It's like, I do think not enough students here at GCU actually are aware of NUS.
Well, you need to utilise their resources though as well, and then bring them onto campus. It's not, we don't have to go to them all the time, but if we're utilising their resources and make sense of it so that students do know what it's about.
John, you had a comment before Neil, sorry.
About actually getting rid of NUS. One of the things that they have got is the representatives there, so that the full-time officers. They've also got the volunteer officers on the SEC, especially for liberation roles. What I found is they are an absolute wealth of knowledge and experience. I was actually talking to Kelly Temple, who's the outgoing women's officer for UK, and see the amount of information she can tell you to help break down, for example, barriers to women running elections. They're an absolute goldmine. I think we should make sure that the relevant people here, the students on the ground doing the campaigning, actually get in contact with them and find out what are they doing, and they can work in partnership and supporting each other.
Yeah, Kelly Temple's an oracle of information. She knows everything about everything. but yeah, I mean, NUS is like going back to what we've been saying there. It's I think it's just all about sharing best practice and absolutely utilising them as a resource rather than relying on them. Vice versa. I mean, they need us as much as we need them. They need the students. I remember going back to the demonstration that we had in London, the demolition down in 2010. It turned into a bit of a riot, but that was not the students that caused that. But yeah, I mean, they know how to run campaigns. They know everything. But like I said, let's use them as a resource so we can learn and we can be better.
I think it would be great to use the resources as well. I know that obviously NUS run national campaigns, and it'd be really great to be able to use their resources to then in our university have local campaigns, localised campaigns which relate to our university directly. Obviously regional campaigns, they relate to everybody, but can we make it even that bit more specific for our own students?
Awesome.
Encouraging more students like Neil to sit on the executive committee. That's what we need to do.
Brilliant. So last question that I've got written down more on Twitter. We are getting your tweets in, and we will be reading them soon. Elections. Obviously we're in the middle of a by-election, and last election the voter turnout was amazing, highest it's ever been in GCU, I'm pretty well to say. How would you ensure that this time for the next elections, how would you ensure the turnout is just as high if not higher, and what would you want to introduce to ensure that happens? And we were starting at Colin.
Well, in terms of engagement with the elections last year, it's massive numbers, really great representation. Let's not really change anything, but let's really work on the good things the positives that we took from that. The VP isn't a case of coming in, knocking the walls down, and starting again. And I feel like it's just an evolution of what we do well in terms of the election. So yeah.
Brilliant. Amory?
To build on that, I mean, I think that all boils down to it's like the whole ethos of what the university stands for, which is why it's like I want to talk about a culture of engagement. I think that's the whole point. I mean, I agree, it's like I think the turnout last year was absolutely phenomenal, but we do need to build on that, and we need to look at how we can actually get students more involved. It's all about the student engagement. It's like if we don't start from the bottom up and actually create that culture, then it's like one leads on to the other, and you'll actually get more students becoming more involved. So
fantastic. Pauline?
Yep, positive role models, which is why I'm here, to try and encourage people, even for next year, even if they don't get in, to run anyway. So yes, same Anne-Marie, engage, definitely. Working with the College Connects people, then trying to get the ones from the college at least to understand initially to begin with how important it is to have representation all over, and how important it is to actually engage with the Students' Association for all of the things, even for the, you know, for the fun things, for the education things, for their representation, for everything. Yep.
Fantastic. And John?
Yeah, what I find the best way to increase turnout is actually to increase the number of candidates and the quality of candidates. So what we will need to start doing is looking at the barriers people face to running. So one of the things that could really help is doing campaign training before nominations close. We could also start looking at things such as giving people materials instead of money back, so they don't need to worry about funding a campaign because they're guaranteed materials. And also, especially with the big diversity issue, we should really start championing that. So maybe start looking out for who are those rising stars.
That's been. Any further comments on that? Any more?
Do I not get a say? That's
Go,
alright.
go for it, Danielle. Of course you do.
Okay, so I think in order to increase student turnout, we need to shout more about what sabbatical officers have done in the past. You know, you obviously at the very start of the election when they went, oh yeah, they're elected, but by the end of it, like, what have they actually done? Like Sinead and Neil and everybody and Monica, they've done so much, but if you don't actually go out and ask them what they've done, most of it you don't know about, and I don't think the students realise the importance of what sabbatical officers do. So really shout about it on the ground, on social media, just, you know.
Fantastic. Awesome. Any further comments this time? Sorry again for that.
Societies play a big part in that though, you know, encouraging people in, encouraging more. If you encourage more numbers in societies, get them more involved in the Students' Association, then they can then pass that down, you know.
I would maybe just make one suggestion, and to be honest, I think if we could find a more efficient way of actually placing your vote, because by the time you find a computer, you log on, you get to the post, you've already used 5 minutes. If there was some sort of system that we could put in, where it's even a case of like even the photocopiers, you swipe your card, you press the name, done.
Interesting.
That's a good point, actually, accessibility, because I've tried to get on from. Everything's now is technical, isn't it? Smartphones didn't actually manage to get through to get on my smartphone. So really, we kind of have to look at the kind of that kind of technical side, don't we?
Yeah, John.
Yeah, one of the big barriers that I've spoken to people about in regards to running elections is that incumbency factor. Do you intend to seek for a second term if elected?
Sorry, can you say that again?
What I'm saying is one of the big barriers to people running the elections is the fact there's an incumbent. So someone who's seeking a second term. Will you seek a second term if elected?
Oh, and for that, we will start at Colin again.
Absolutely. If I'm doing a good job, if I'm the right man for the job, then absolutely I'll run again. And if I get the support, if I've done the job properly, if I am transparent and people are able to see what I've been doing rather than screaming from the rooftop, vote for me, and they ask why, and I say as well, don't you know why? I will definitely give everything to this job, and of course I'll run again. Absolutely. If I'm doing a good job, then why stop that? Why pass over the torch from good work when you can continue that on?
Anne-Marie?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And it all comes down to it. It's like the people that actually decide to stand all have one thing, and that is a passion for education. It's like education does change lives, and it's like I really, really believe that. And it's like if I can really make a difference, and it's like I was welcome to come back and stand, then yeah, I would come back. Yep.
Pauline?
Yep, I definitely would as well. This is my 3rd time back to education, although different degrees and levels. So I've always wanted to pass all the knowledge I've had down to other people, and this is an ideal position to do it. So yeah, if I was doing a good job and the students were happy, then why not? Yeah, definitely.
Danielle?
Yeah. I think, you know, obviously everybody has a specific thing that they want to do, and I think if you're really passionate and if you want to give your time up for something as big as this, you know, I mean, this is taking up all their time, and it's really showing that you will stand for those students, and the students are the most important things here, and I really want to help them because university has given me such a good experience and want to give it back. So yeah.
Can I flip that question back on yourself?
Sure, I'll be very clear. I have no interest in second term. There's other things what you go and do. So a second term as VP is not in my interest. Let it pass the baton on to someone else. I know there's some rising stars out there I've seen who I'd really like to have a fair shot at it.
I think cool. you were right in there for a second term, weren't you? So why not? Indeed, because you did a really good job, and it's about kind of taking that forward again. So yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The reason I ran for a second term is the fact that you get continuity. So there's a lot. It's the nature of the job. You get a year, and believe me, it absolutely flies in. I can't believe I'm sitting here over a year after I started. So to have that opportunity to continue with stuff that you've been working on, or to develop the stuff you've been working on, and further improve the student experience. If I get time to pick up on a couple of points
Quickly.
Just in terms of elections and the voting, I think I don't think it's a secret. The Students' Association are going to have a new website very soon. That's going to remove a lot of the barriers to voting in the next elections, because I think a lot of people would agree it's not been the most easy to use website perhaps. In terms of turnout, I think it is about the executive committee shouting about their wins and what they've been doing throughout the year to raise the awareness of the work the Students' Association are doing, so students know about it. And then there's plenty of things you can be doing during the elections, getting your message out there to encourage more people to vote.
Fantastic. Right, that's all the questions we got from here. There is a couple that have been sent in. I really like this first one actually, because it was affected me, but I never sent it in, honestly. Last year, strike action was proposed, including a possible marking boycott, meaning that the hard-working students wouldn't be able to graduate. Although this was off the table, how would you, as an elected VPE, react to further action?
I think it's really important that we do actually listen to that side of the argument. If we talk about diversity and working with it as a partnership, I do think it's important to listen to what the trade unions are saying and what's happening, do you know what I mean? And they do have a voice. However, I think it is a responsibility to balance that up with what the students want and how it's going to affect the students. So I think when something like that comes along, it's like you really do need to, this is where I'm saying about effective engagement, we need to be out there talking to the students, and if we actually have to take a stand and fight for their corner, then that's what we do.
Perfect. Pauline?
Oh yeah, obviously our academic staff are stars because they are giving us our education, so there has to be a fine balance. They have to be rewarded for what they are doing, and it is a partnership, definitely a partnership, but at the same time it's our education as well, so it is finding that balance, but it is finding the majority, the majority of the students. So there you go.
John?
Yeah, I think we really need to watch a relationship with the union. Like, we want to make sure that the uni aren't trying to come down as like a divide and conquer kind of thing, but we also have to make sure that this is a two-way street, to make sure that the unions are there for us when we need them most, and we're there for the unions. I'll stand by them through thick and thin, but it's a two-way street.
Danielle?
I think that when the university last striked, it was really a really crucial moment, and I really don't think they did it right. A lot of people suffered because of it right before they were doing exams. So it really comes down to timing. It has to, I know obviously it doesn't suit everybody, but there has to be greater communication to try and make sure that it doesn't affect people too much like the way that it did last time we striked.
I think I've got quite a different approach on, because I was a student and I was also a union rep with Unison at North Glasgow College. I've seen both sides of the. We talk about being partners. If it's partnership, then we have to support them. However, strike action must be and has to be the very, very last option that we come to. And if we are, as partners, can come to an agreement as staff and students, and we go together, then we should really be able to make headway rather than striking.
Perfect.
Yeah, well, you're right, Colin, because we should be, as a student body as well, we should be supporting them in a way so that they don't have to strike. So we should be supporting their corner too.
I think in terms of what's actually happened with the staff, it's actually a real terms cut of 13% since they actually were given a pay rise. I mean, 1%, absolutely, it's still a raise. It isn't in line with what the inflation rates are going, and especially what government tries to say as well. But in terms of 13%, that's huge amounts of money, and of course they've got the right to strike. I believe wholeheartedly that they wouldn't have a job without us, but we wouldn't have an education without them, and it's all about coming and going. We've got to be supporting them as long as they support us.
But I think that's where the problem lies. I think it's all down to this, the amount of information that students get. I mean, there's students are adults, they're perfectly capable of understanding another point of view, And I think a lot of the time it's like where the staff are coming from, it's not really put across properly to the students for them to make an informed decision.
No, and it's not school like or college. This is a university of intelligent people, intelligent adults.
Exactly.
And of course, and I feel if the unions did work harder to be, again, to use the word transparent with us, and vice versa, then I feel they'd have more support.
I agree.
And a lot more weight going into their arguments that they do have with the brass.
I mean, a lot of the students don't actually realise what other work undertaking that staff actually do out with their own time, you know, so...
Students only see, they've turned down a pay rise.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's what I've discovered a lot of the time is that there's so many pockets within this institution of things that are going on that nobody is aware of. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have here within, do you know what I mean, GCU, or maybe it's the same across all institutions.
So that's another barrier, we have to find more ways
of joining that
out,
together, and making the students aware of, do you know what I mean, it's like, look, it's like when we talk about a partnership, we actually mean a partnership. There are two sides, we can learn from each other, that's what it's all about.
And use each other to the advantage, you know.
Yeah, but the problem is the students are not aware of what the other side of it. I think that's the problem. Don't get me wrong, I think a lot of that actually falls down to the GCU itself, the institution itself. I think sometimes the staff are guilty of, or the institution's guilty of not promoting that side of things to students. I mean, I don't think why that should all be down to the student association. I think that has to come from their side as well in order to create that balance, but I do think we can help.
I do think there's also work where, as students, where we need to get the unions agreeing with each other, because you've got Unison, Jeremy, and you've got who's the other one? The UCU. They don't normally have the same idea of the other unions, the unions, and it's all about getting on the same page to get the right wins for the right people at the right time. So
perfect. I'll stop on that just because there's time's running out.
Okay.
One really, really good question coming in that gives a bit of background to yourself. Basically, quite quick, what societies have you been involved in within GCU? Just one question, really quick, just to give a bit of background to yourself. We're going to start with John.
Societies. I actually started my own one in partnership with Strathclyde. It failed, but I gave it a good go, and so should you.
Perfect. Daniel?
I have been involved in quite a lot. I've been involved in the GCU Jam Society. I set that up in 2012 and I've been the chairperson for 3 years. I've been involved in the GCU Soup Kitchen. I set up the Women's Rights Society. I'm involved in Soup Kitchen. I done other stuff, yeah, those are the 4 main ones, but I've sort of been involved in like other things. Student Voice, obviously. Cool. Yeah.
Colin?
It's tough after just being a fresher. I've only been here a year. In the time that I've been here in a year, I have worked within Radio Caley and really enjoyed it. I have been elected as the social committee for the rugby team, and I am also the president of the Alistair Boyd Legacy Group, which is a charity group raising money for Teenage Cancer Trust and Click Sergeant, and we're actually running a trip to Kilimanjaro in July with 45 students going up there raising
next year
raising £120,000 for students and youth with cancer.
Awesome. How-Marie?
If I'm being perfectly honest, it's like when it actually comes to societies within GCU. No, I haven't been involved with societies. My whole ethos has been involved with, I deliver class rep training, so I actually do that for the university itself. I actually work with Sparks in the NUS, so it's like I deliver quality enhancement and stuff and training and out with colleges and universities all over Scotland. So basically, yeah, that's about it. Yep.
And Polly?
Most of my time has been spent really as a mentor, kind of doing peer support and going out to the schools and colleges and trying to engage in kind of terms that way. But I have been sort of a member of the Glasgow Business School Business and Society before they changed their name. So I have been out to a few functions that they've kind of collaborated in. There was some funding put together, and that was actually a really good society, because I have to say, when I first came on board to university, there wasn't any society that kind of interacted with me or that I felt that I could engage with. The Business Society, yes, because business has been my background. So
awesome. So that's about us. We're going to wrap up in a wee second. Each candidate's going to be getting 30 seconds to reinforce why you should vote for them and give a bit of a link into the finishing, and then that will be us. So again, we're going to go around the circle. Last time I believe we started at John. Is that right? Yeah. So Anne-Marie.
Okay, so why should you vote for me? I am passionate about education. I really do believe education changes lives. It changed minds. I don't think it's all about any one thing, so it's like I think it's about the whole experience, and it's like everything comes together in order to create that. I believe in student as partners, a culture of engagement, student representation, and flexible learning and teaching. Vote for me and I'll give it 100%.
Pauline?
As I said before, I believe there's two things that you need to have at university that you should do. Get a fantastic experience and set yourself up for a great future. As a fourth year graduate, I've had the chance to experience all the academic life at GCU and privileged meeting lots of different students from all walks of life. The result, I think I've got a fairly clear vision of how to take Caledonian sort of Uni Students Association forward, and vote for me because it's my voice.
John?
So yeah, as my journey's come to an end, I've seen a lot of awesome things about GCU, but I've also seen a lot of rubbish things about GCU, such as exam bunching. I've been affected, my friends have been affected, and I want to personally say that these things are changed. So I'm John G, vote me number 1.
Danielle?
I've given a lot to this university and to the Student Association. I've been involved in so many necks of the wood when it comes to the Student Association. I know how things run, I know how they work, I've seen the problems, and I want to fix them. I believe in inclusion. I've worked with people with disabilities, I've worked with people internationally, and I want to make sure that everybody can be involved in education as much as possible.
Fantastic. And Colin?
In the year ahead, I feel what we need to be doing, Neil was, for me, has the right man because of the continuity that you brought up. We need continuity this year in terms of the stuff that's coming up with the LIA. That's massive for the university. If we don't have continuity, then I think we need experience, and personally speaking, I'm the most experienced man for the job. I've got the background and the drive, and there is not one thing I won't do. I will work efficiently and I'll work hard every day.
Perfect. Last words from Neil, our outgoing Vice President of Education. You want in 30 seconds?
Yes,
you can have a wee
I
bit
just
more than 30 seconds.
want
if
to
you
say thanks very much for everyone involved in the Students Association and the uni. I've had an absolutely amazing time in the last year and a bit in this role and in my 4 years studying. It's been a brilliant opportunity. I really think in the last year we have made a positive impact on students' lives. I think there's a lot more that could be done and will be done, and I can guarantee no matter who wins this by-election, they're going to do a brilliant job, and I'll be happy leaving it in their hands. Thank you.
Fantastic. Can I just say thank you to all the listeners that are listening on Radio Caley. Thank you to everyone that's involved. If you want to vote, please go on to caledonianstudent.com and voting is on that. If you want to find out any more about the candidates, all their manifestos is up on Caledonian Student. You can access it, and I'm sure there'll be direct links to each person's contact details on that. Can I just say thank you once again. Stay tuned, listen to Radio Caley when we come back in September. Until then, have a good summer.